So today we're going to talk about Titan. It's going to be, not a glaze over. We'll get a little in depth, but we're not going to get too specific on everything. But with that being said, for those online as well, this is a travel case that we're happy to send anywhere and everywhere. And then, we'll do some hands-on. So anyone that wants to feel it or see what they do or use them, feel free. We'll spend as much time as needed. But kind of during the presentation, we'll go over it. But at any time you want, just stop it and we can discuss it further or in depth. So I'm happy to do that. So first off, Titan Flow Control, we're based out of Lumberton, North Carolina. They are a kind of bunch of Mueller defects. So a lot of Mueller and Titan are right down the road from each other, and they're very proud of that. So some of the uppers, the purchasers, engineers, buyers, sales team from Mueller decided to kind of change gears in the early 2000s and become Titan Flow Control. And so they're right next to each other, so there's a lot of animosity isn't a good word, but friendly competition is very, very strong among the two companies. So it's kind of interesting. Titan kind of got some innovation and brains that thought they could do something better, and I think they've kind of proved the point that they did. So they're a very interesting case. The personnel, the ownership, the leadership is a fantastic group of people, which is also a big attribute to Titan Flow Control. So we're going to kind of go through kind of the people and profile, the cast and fabricated products, engineering capabilities, their unique solutions, and then open it up to any questions that might arise. So, I kind of spoiled this one, but so like I said, they're just a group of engineers and teams and in service that have 20 plus years amongst them individually, 150 years combined, decided to take a leap and go for their own road. They are considered a high-quality manufacturer. They do check valves, butterfly valves, pipeline strainers, fabricated products, and then all sorts of fabricated and pipeline accessories. So their motto is they can fit and kind of assist in any and all industries and markets. And where they can't, they can usually create the solution to get into that. So they're a good group to work with. That's their product line, kind of repetitive. Y strainers, basket, fab, check valves, and butterfly valves. So we're going to start off with kind of the basics. What is a strainer? And a strainer is a basic definition, a device used to mechanically separate a solid from a liquid. So you're just catching particulate, you're catching matter, debris matter, and you're just containing it to a removable location. Now, why this is kind of important is what's the difference between a strainer and a filter. So Titan does not do any sort of filtration. So they don't do filters. And what it kind of boils down to is the style of, collection and the particulate size. So their kind of cutoff point is 50 micron and larger is a strainer. They can do that with a Dutch weave and different kinds of baskets. Filters are 40 micron and smaller, and is a much different process of separating media from liquid. So Titan does not do any sort of filtration, and those lines kind of clear themselves up when you see the design or the manufacturer, but sometimes there's a gray area, and then you're kind of offering, we can offer a strainer that has the filtration capabilities, but they like to keep those kind of ideas very, very separate because you're usually achieving a much different goal between straining and filtration. So the media, strainers use a reusable screen, perforated metal wire mesh. Filters are generally a filtration media that you can take away, disassemble, and throw away, or it's a cartridge style design, as opposed to a metal insert, that's you pop out, scrape it off, throw it back in. So that's the biggest thing. Behind your refrigerator is a filter, whereas this is an electric. So Titan does not do anything in the filtration market. So again, why so many types? So why so many types to strain media? What's different? What's unique? As we all know, unique solutions, problems, all create themselves. So the straining market has evolved, so to speak, but also just kind of accommodated the many definitions. The service solutions span anywhere from what are you trying to get out of the line, what's the space capabilities that you have, what's the service time you have, what's the downtime capability. So each of these is a unique solution, a unique style, and carry their own benefits and limitations. So we're going to kind of get a little bit of an overview on those.
One of the things on all strainers, they're all going to have a component where you can move the straining component, the basket or the cone or whatever. And so you see, if you notice in all those pictures, it's some kind of flange or cover or something that that.
Burritos are here.
Oh, yay!
All right. Okay, look at your kid. Sure. How are you?
Good. How you doing, brother?
Good. Hello. I got chorizo names, and finger names. Yeah. There's some hot sauce in there. I got a very good food with worried.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Burrito interlude.
You want to maybe just lay everything out on that back table there?
I want to leave my computers here, okay?
Oh, okay.
I want to speak nice to work.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll tell you what, why don't you, how many coolers do you have?
One more. I got people in there.
We have like leave one of them out there for starters.
Okay. 15 and that other one.
We'll bring that one in here and then take those back out.
Okay.
There's a lot more people you got 100 of them, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bring you to work here.
Yeah, bring 15 in here, they mix or,
Okay.
yeah, mix those 15. in.
All right.
Not that you, I don't want, I'm sure y'all can't eat 100 burritos. Well, maybe you throw under it.
All right, so I'm going to talk about Y strainers. Now, Y strainer carries with it an installation benefit. One of it is being horizontal or vertical installation. So it's more versatile in that department. It is service down, so it must be able to point leg down. That, that's the particulate is heading down. You got to catch it, or else it'll just keep flushing into your line. And then once the blow down and the service is done from the downward position. So, take off the string, pull it out. So, but that's a good thing, because it does have a little bit of versatility to it. It's a little lower profile, a little easier. It's a cast design, so they're kind of more repetitive in nature, as opposed to the simplex, which is kind of more of a space type of deal. It doesn't save space, but it can be installed and serviced different. So Y strainers will carry the most versatility as well. They come standard with 150 to 15 or 2500 class kind of out of the gate, because it is a cast product. It's kind of, you get what you need. If you need any modifications or benefits to it, you're probably looking more into a simplex strainer. So out of the gate, stock heavy and ready. As with all Titan strainers, the straining element is 100% changeable. They do it same day usually, or next day at the most. Standard perforations include anywhere from 5/32 all the way up to 1 inch. So, I mean, if you just need getting golf balls out of the line, they can do that as well. And then everything can also be included with a mesh lining. The standard mesh lines they carry in stock are 20 all the way up to 100 mesh. That's considered one mesh. So there's just a one charge to get a mesh lining on that. And so all these are able to do that same day. Standard stock perforation on these would be 8 or 16th inch perf, up to 4 inch, 1/8 inch perf, 5 inch and above. So that's considered, so Titan prices their stuff two ways, standard and mesh. Even if it's an altered perforated screen that's considered a mesh, it's just one charge to get that changed out, unless you're going down in the Dutch weave world or anything like that. So it's a good design, very versatile, stock heavy.
You guys all know what the classes mean, right?
Yeah, so just answer class. Standard perf for the Titan for 1/2 inch up to 4 inch is 16th inch perf, and then 1/8 inch perf move up there. Some strainers will carry a dual standard. They have for water and steam. I don't know which anyone's will be 5/32 standard, but some do on the lower elements. They'll have a two thing that they have a standard for steam as well, and it's different things. But on their shelf, all strainers 16th inch or 1/8 inch, depending on the size. So anything outside of that is considered a modification, and it just has a secondary charge to it. Basket strainers or simplex baskets are horizontal run only, so they have to be horizontal inline. They are serviced from above. These have class limitations to them. They are standard class 150 and 300 out of the factory. Perforated baskets are the same design. So must have vertical clearance to service. Thing goes up, pull the strainer out. And so that's a simplex design. We'll get into kind of why simplex and why there's a limitation in a little bit. And then duplex strainers, I do not have one of those, but are essentially same as a simplex, only it's duo, and that's when downtime is critical. You can shift gears, we'll go into it more, but you can shift from one straining element to the next while the media is flowing. You have no downtime. You can service one basket, get it back in operation, either go back to that basket or just switch them back and forth. No downtime. So that's what a duplex strainer is just when downtime is critical. That's the application you're gonna want to use. And so the applications are limited, just much like the all pipe valve fittings is pressure, temperature, and media. That's how we're going to get to the most, dialed in design for what we're doing. Pressures and temperatures for the cast plies, like I said, it's a 125 for the iron bodies, all the way up to 2,500 for the cast carbon and exotic. Well, no exotics for wide strainers. Cast strainers 153, fab tees. So fab tees are kind of designed by engineers, applicated. So they're not limited necessarily to an ANSI class. They're more just engineering specific. A lot of drawings, a lot of people signing off, saying one or the other. But they have fab tee capabilities all the way up to 36-inch, I believe. And fabricated basket strainers designed per application. That's where they get a little flexibility. So we can go up to, I believe, class 900 on fabricated basket strainers. Those are done in-house at Titan. They have a massive fabrication facility. And that's when, if you need a different design on a quick closing feature, they have standards, but they have fabricating capabilities, and they can only fabricate a simplex basket strainer, just because of the way the pipe is. And for those being a cast unit, they just don't have the capabilities to do any modifications outside of an extra port or something like that. So simplex is when the alloys are more demanding, service conditions are more demanding, the ANSI class is higher. That's where we're going to get into the fabricated market. And that's what Titan really is hanging their hat on as of recently, investing significantly into their fabricated designs. So, and then duplex, duplex, they have a standard. They have a standard 150 and 300 duplex on the shelf, but they follow the same rules as the simplex. As the demands go greater, it will become classified as a fabrication. And then why do we need a strainer? So strainers are to protect larger equipment, to protect your line, to keep it clean. And as we know, nothing can gum off the line quicker than the media itself. So this is an example of straining seawater. It feels a little nasty. But I think one of the best ways I've heard Titan describe it is it's a low-cost insurance policy for much more expensive equipment. You're protecting your pumps, you're protecting your downstream equipment at a fairly low cost. And once you make that initial investment to get a straining element inside that line, you're kind of looking at just replacing the baskets and screens. So I think the insurance policy kind of way to think about it, and it's the best I've heard, is it's a low-cost insurance policy for your line. It protects that much more valuable equipment. So, cast and strainers. I'm going to go past that one, so this is more design. So, the product mix, size standard, they go all the way down from 1/4 inch, all the way up to 36-inch. Your classic end connections, flanged, thread end, socket weld, butt weld, solder, and groove. So, the groove is the most recent, they just came out with that. So, it's in cast only right now, so cast iron groove end. And 125, 150, all the way up to 2,500. So the materials, cast iron, ductile, carbon steel, stainless. That's where the Y strainer will stop, is that stainless steel. Now exotic alloys, that's where simplex kicks in. So, and duplex stainless, super duplex, exotic alloys, chrome moly, alloy 20 Monel. A lot of that stuff they stock in-house, but then once it becomes too exotic, it's sourced. But they have done it all and can do it all. They source it and keep it in-house. So the same with screens. They can do the same thing for temp. They can do it all across the board. So exotic alloys is another situation where why simplex when the alloys are more demanding. We're going to switch to a simplex. Screen 25 micron. They're going to do that with a Dutch weave. It's a perforated screen with a kind of a suit and armor, little mesh lining weaved into it. 20 meshes, your standard mesh, and then all the way up to inch perforated screen. Cover designs, bolted, clamp, T-bolt, and threaded. There's a kind of a better picture of that down the line, but also kind of resulting back to the Y simplex. Simplex is for maintenance as well, so when maintenance is key, simplex offers the most options for quick in and quick out. They've got quick closure, quick clamp, quick service, davit lifting arms. They call it toolless designs, where it comes with a knob and a davit, so that on the larger strainer, a 10, 20 inch strainer, you can imagine that plate is pretty heavy. So they'll include a davit, so you just hook it to itself and it can slide out right there. So it's a single person serviceability and lower tools required. All right, and now just a little more in depth on our cast. So this is our size ranges. As the class increases, the size decreases just by service and material capability requirements. They do have RTJ flanges. They can do that in-house. They can swap out flanges. And smaller size, 1/2 to 3, socket weld, butt weld, thread in, all standard stock items for Titan. So if you can't find it in one end, they can usually throw you an option and get it out there. And if it's capable and possible, they'll absolutely fabricate in-house to do what you need. Titan is, hopefully I'll keep this repetitive because it's true. Titan is the most kind of user-friendly. You're talking to a person, you're getting a real answer, yes or no. So that's one thing we love about Titan is you're talking to the fab designers real time, they'll get you done. So they try to make it as user-friendly. They live by their customer's king motto, and for the 7 years I've been working with them, they've never let me down on that. So hopefully that will get repeated. Yeah, then those are for everybody.
Okay, if you just talk about so I want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's enough for everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No problem. I'm going to take 10 feet. Trevor. Okay.
All right, so kind of moving on, they follow all the industry standards. They are kind of getting a little bit into the bronze and aluminum bronze alloys. They do have a standard lead-free aluminum bronze now, so they're kind of getting in that market. The NSF 61 is kind of elusive to Titan steel. They don't have an off-the-shelf iron body one, but they do have the capabilities to do the NSF photo box. And so they can certify the NSF 61 for most of the strainers that we offer. So they got the Eco Brass and the aluminum bronze, and then the YS80 is kind of your classic. They got a YS80T and a YS80S, which is your stainless steel, ANSI 300 thread and carbon steel. So
I'm going to take a 2-minute break.
Yeah,
I want to get a break.
burrito break.
Go ahead.
Burritos are the most focus for it.
So I want you to be able to concentrate. Jay, you got to go get one now. You were talking about that.
I'll grab that once. This is where this thing.
So on that last game,
Yeah.
a while back, you had a close art.
Yeah. This RTJ flange got a ring. It's not a base flange. It's got a point line. It's just a piping thing. So some valves will require RTJ. Some can be relieved by just an RTJ gap before, but some are a true design flange. So it's a piping spec with RTJ. It's just got a little ring on it. Yeah, it's just different from your racing.
Don't think I run into that much.
No, we don't even, where you do, it throws the range on a pipeline, that's an RTJ. You'll see RTJ too a lot in the higher class. So class 900 and 1500, especially in the valve world, that's where you'll definitely see RTJ. So you really, I don't know if I ever have seen like a 150 or 300 RTJ requirement, unless it's an old line. In the higher classes, they switch to RTJ.
No, we're good. All right, good. Yeah. Okay, go for it. There's two extras. Stay here. I didn't put it out there. Yeah, people want to get the bad rap and you just don't want to. Trevor, don't do it wrong. I had it all my life. You see when I walk into some of your other locations, the abuse is unlimited. You is the favorite.
Yeah.
How'd you know that? But that?
They have their own rules.
Yeah. It is Buck, Montana. What's that? Yeah. The bars on St. Patrick's Day. Just kind of like a wave, just kind of walk through because that's how.
Yeah. All right. We'll braid it up, ready to roll. So now we're kind of getting into the cast simplex kind of, and when we're talking on this is
Next up.
this, the standard stock. So this doesn't include all the alloys. This is what you could call today and most likely see a nice amount of stock. So cast simplex are stocked as 125, 150, 130, half to 24, carbon, cast iron, carbon, steel, stainless steel, and aluminum bronze. NPD, they're pipe thread and flange ends. For bolted and quick open covers, they do stock a decent amount. I won't get into specific models, but just for reference purposes, they have like a BS55 and a 65, and what's the difference between the two? Well, one comes standard stock with a quick acting, quick clamp cover, the other doesn't. The BS85 design also can come up to 6-inch stock with the clamp design. We can offer mod kits to field service and field adjust one to a quick clamp cover. So they do keep a nice stock of those. And that's where you'll see a little bit of a premium on the price. But, again, like we always say with the press connecting with labor. I mean, the significant amount of labor is saved with those quick acting covers, especially the ones with davits. Single person maintenance goes a long way. Drainage vents are Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah. So davit, it wouldn't hold much purpose on this, but so for one like that's a 4-inch. It kind of has with these. Anything over 4-inch will come standard with these. So both in. Now, when you're getting to a 10-inch simplex strainer, it probably sits about yay high and a cover about there. So what a davit would be is it makes them on side here, and it just acts as a davit lifting arm. So it's almost like a portable crane for your own strainer. It'll have a physical arm that goes over, and you'll have an eye hook on the cap, and you just chain it on. So that way, when you undo the bolts, your cover will hover, and all you got to do is simply swing it over. So you got a massive piece that would take a forklift to open, but as soon as you do that, the gas will kind of self-relieve itself, and then you got a little chain wheel lifting arm on it. So that's where it would hold no value here, but when you're talking a sucker of one. So yeah, so just a little, it looks almost just like a lifting arm. Crane swoops in, swoops out, and it'll contain your cover. So yeah, those go a long way. That we can fabricate the standards with these, but then when we're talking fabricated designs, davits are pretty common because those are the sizes we're always talking about. And that's what we'll offer. A lot of specs recently have come in with quick acting clamp covers for very large size strainers. And that's just not physically possible to engineer a massive pipe strainer to be quick acting. So that's where we say we cannot offer you quick acting, because any quick acting plant, just based on the sealing methods and the gasket, it derates, quote unquote, a strainer to about 200 pounds. So when someone needs a class 300 with a quick acting cover, we always have to make that kind of generalization. They are coming out, should be very, very soon this year, with a true class 300 quick acting cover that is rated to ANSI 300. But as it stands now, if you get a 300 strainer with a quick acting cover, it will take it down to 200 pounds. So that we always have to make that known. But then, which, you know, in the 4 to 6 range, it's not hard to defend that. Here's the reasoning. Here's why they are making engineering changes to accommodate that. When you're talking 10 inch, it's a very easy design. You can't quickly contain such a massive strainer. So that's what we'll say. We can't offer you that, but here's what we can offer you is a dabbed arm to reduce the maintenance and reduce the amount of moving parts to get a cover off and change the gasket. So that's another big thing. I don't know if it's mentioned, so I will kind of hit on that. Quick acting covers do hold their own pressure rate. So you're only rating up to the quick acting cover when it's on there, which is usually 200 pounds. So keep that in mind. So gauge taps and standards 6 inch and up. So every strainer 6 inch and up will have 1/4 inch pressure, differential pressure indicating gauge taps. All of them have a standard drain design. So there is no additional tapping fee or anything like that. They all do come 1/4 inch standard for the dual pressure or differential pressure. Do
they all come with a pressure relief?
No, they do not. They don't do any relief valves or anything like that. They do offer male by female blow down valves that they can install in shop if you want. But so these will increase with size. You know, depending on the strainer size, they go all the way up to 1 inch or 2 inch. But the differential pressure, those are all 1/4 inch. They can accommodate in-house. If you want 1/2 inch DPI, they can do that. They don't really get greedy with it either. It's like a $25 charge or something like that, just for them to zap that out. Now, when we're talking class 1500 and above, some of the conversations that we have is why don't they have thread and drains? Just because of the magnitude of pressure that's containing. You don't want somebody errantly kind of going in there and operating a valve. They recommend a gate valve or something more. But they will socket weld. They'll offer a socket weld connection drain. So where some you'll see on a strainer, it doesn't offer a drain port and the customer wants a thread end drain port. They just won't do it because of the pressure. They will offer a socket weld drain port. They'll do that in-house as well. So they accommodate and listen. The only limitations are engineering and physics. You know, sometimes we have to have that conversation that you physically can't contain that kind of pressure with that device. So, but again, they'll answer that real time and there's nothing better. So adjustable legs, these are these. So you can base your height, you can kind of give it a little floating sensation on a platform and move it up and down. These are fabricated brackets to any degree, you know, pending physical support properties. And then as I talked, they do have the NSF 61 Photopox application. They did lose their facility to a flood a few years ago, but they are back to in-house. So I don't know if anyone's ever experienced have an unnecessary lead time for any sort of extra paint or Photopox, but that has been alleviated. They have a new facility up, so they are back in-house with their paint and all that. So the lead time isn't as bad. They used to have to send it to a third party. So that's in-house tape and differential pressure gauge available. So they can install the physical gauge if needed. So out of the factory, if you need a valve with gauges and a blow down ball valve, they can supply that out of factory. Duplex feature. So like we talked about, zero leakage during basket cleaning. It's a physical lever. You're alternating the flow of the line. It's duplex, dual design. Got two. This is not a picture, but it's a few slides down. So it's just a dual design. And the biggest feature on that is you have zero downtime on the line. So maintenance downtime, when that's mission critical, you got to go to a duplex. And zero leakage, field repair is very easy. There's no There's no pressure, there's no assembly. You can just switch it back and forth, maintain that day, or get it on order. By the time you have it on order, you just re-maintain. Low torque, to 180-degree operational, full open and close. So that's the physical lever. There'll be a better picture of that a little down the line. 200-pound pressure rating. So that also has to do with the design, because there's integral parts. A lot of times it's got to be flanced up with a butterfly valve, so you're kind of rating it to the lowest component. And once we get into the full fabrication, that increases, because you can put a high-performance butterfly valve on it if we're doing a carbon or stainless steel unit. So they can do that out of the gate. It does hold a lower pressure rating just because you got to rate it to the lowest component. Oftentimes, it's that floating ball design in the center where it's actually diverting the flow, or the pressure containing vessel it's got its own stem for the lever. So that's the long way of saying a lot of moving parts to it. So that's another one where you got to catch yourself. Because if it's mating to an ANSI 300, we've got to make sure if it's a true 300 ANSI pressure requirement, we might need to upgrade the sealing capabilities on that. But all questions that will be normally asked when a quote is received. And suction pressure is okay. Equalizing for changeover is not needed. They have a quad ball design. It's self-relieving. I'm not going to pretend like I fully understand it, but they kind of had a design where it's not going to pull on the other, and you're not going to trap an air bubble, because they kind of transfer it 4 ways. Very unique. Like I said, I'll just get deeper and deeper into my not knowing quite why, but they're very proud of it. They call it their quad ball design. And what that did is it eliminated air pockets, trapping, kind of so having the line pressure push your lever over faster. So that's their design, and they're much smarter than me. All right. So spare baskets, quickest delivery, less downtime, done in-house. They have a fabrication facility. They have a fab facility, big time stuff, but then they're in-house. They've got a team making spare baskets all day. And they kind of have a unique thing when they say, is there any expediting fees or something? They truly jump balling it to their crew. Does anyone want to stay tonight and get the expediting fee? And they do it. So if you've got a real unique one, or you've got a real hot, something that has to happen, happens a lot with these. So not necessarily a spare basket, just because they're ready. I mean, they're putting these in 500 times a day. They're ready for the screens and the straining elements. But it does happen if you need a Dutch weave or a full 3/16 stainless, you'll need something. But what we do get is the expediting fees a lot with this. These are done in-house. They also have an affiliate in Houston that does these. So these can come out real quick. That's where you'll see more of the expediting fees. All right, so now we're going to get into the check valve world. So they've got a single disc design, double disc design, silent style, and then specialty. We'll give them a roll. So single disc design, I don't have a single. I'm going to have a new kind of style one, but that's not a true single disc. So single disc design, biggest feature on that is lay length, slides right in, single disc. So your space is remarkably low on that. They offer this one in carbon and stainless. They have it's like the CS12. It's a extremely thin pattern, but it is full opening. And then they'll also have an iron. That's like a depiction of the iron body, and it's a little larger. It'll still have a smaller space design than this, but it kind of fits the same lay length. So they have an option for a true, I need the smallest valve to reduce my length to, I need to replace an existing with a single disc. They kind of married both worlds on that, which is good. Advantages of a single disc style is that it is full opening. Give me a tap on that one. So single circular shape, hinge pin, conforms API 594, 60, and 598. So it's kind of the lowest velocities, they say. So the cracking pressure, with the spring, it's the easiest to kind of pop it in and out. So the disadvantage of this would be just the flap. It's a classic flapper. So if it's a low pressure and it's constantly, you'll get the most chatter on this one. So to assess the flow velocity can exist oscillations. Inline maintenance is not possible. So with those designs being a single thing, it can't peek in, be foul. You got to take it out, and most of the time, you're just going to replace it. So it's just kind of it's a low cost, low material, but with that comes the limitations, which is, and this one is serviceability. One more step on that. Then dual disc design. So that's kind of what they call the double disc. This is probably, I don't want to use the word common, but you know, if there was a common one, this would be it. It also conforms to 598, and it's a wafer design, so short insulation, easy to install. You know, with wafers right in. But what the disadvantage of this, you'll also find the chatter. So with all check valves, you know, you are limited on the sizing from your pump. So the chatter is whether you're going to get the most. It has a higher cracking pressure. Standard on these is half pound, and it goes in and out. But one of the bigger limitations on this is the fact that it does have quite a little interference with the line. So if you've got heavy debris in your line, you can use a strainer. It is going to catch. So you don't want to use it for slurries, wastewater, anything with heavy traffic, because this will become foul very, very easily. So that's the main thing to watch out for that. Same thing with the all check valves or the all flapper design is the oscillation. If you have a high oscillation in the line, it's going to be a loud chattering check. So just keep an eye out for that. And then center guided silent check valves. This is a center guided. This is not the globe style, but it is a center guided design. So single spring assist, kind of in and out. So it's a more uniform flow. These will create a more uniform flow. Their water can't find kind of a secret path and then abuse one side or the other. So it's single disc design, uniform flow. The globe design has straightening vanes, so it'll reduce turbulence in the line. So that's where these will come into. If turbulence is higher, you want to look for a silent style single disc design. Keeps a more orderly flow. Also, you're going to run into the same limitations as any inline check valve of this nature. Is debris will foul up your line immediately. So just keep it clean with a strainer, but this will reduce turbulence and chatter. And they have two designs, one of which is a bigger globe style, and that has, like I said, straightening vanes, which is a true solution to a heavy turbulent line. For use in pumps and high slurries and anything that'll foul up the line. Specialty check valve. So this is kind of it's a lever and weight design they offer, or just your standard inline check valve. This is when maintenance and is important. So you can inline serviceability. It is a top entry design. You lift it up, defoul the disc, and get back on your way. Limitations are the same as the single disc design. It will chatter, no turbulence, no not too close to a pump. But this one is if longevity is important and serviceability is important. If you do have a heavy debris line, you can take a peek in that one, defoul it, get a replacement disc for it, and kind of move about your merry way. Go ahead, Jim. Now we're going to go into the fab stuff that I've been kind of talking about. We'll go a little faster on these because I think a lot of it gets covered. But, you know, we're hitting on fab. I'm saying a lot, but this is where they're proud they can make anything in-house. They've got laser welding, they've got laser cutting, they've got hydro cutting, they've got everything. So their simple fabricated product mix is simplex, duplex, fab special strainers, T strainers, temporary strainers, and spectacle blinds, paddle blinds, paddle spacers, and bleed rings. So now we'll kind of get into these. And then we're sending you guys a literature box. It's in the works, and it'll have nice breakdowns of all this stuff and kind of little ordering codes and general ideas on what they can do. So this is all their capabilities, and it's increasing every day. So I won't go through all these, but they've got, like I was kind of talking about, they got plasma cutter, water cutter, plate shears, power saws. They invest heavy, and they invest constantly in the fabrication design. So it is a beautiful facility. These are the design standards, again, of what they can do. No U-stamp with U-stamp. U-stamp is a code. They can now do that in-house. They can now do radiography in-house. So every time kind of they're the best with feedback. If you lose a bid because you stamp required, they used to, kind of like API 60 on valve, some people conform to or test to, and then others have a true monogram. They used to kind of be in the conforming to the use stamp, but now they can do it in-house. They can do well radiography. So they really listen, and it's real tangible that if you missed a bid on a spec, they don't take it lightly, and they look to do it in-house. So that's where all the testing they can do it. They've got in-house testing facilities, so they can hydro test real time inside their facility. And they got a paint shop, painting standard, and customer specifications. So if there's a specific paint spec, you can physically send them the paint, or provide them with the resources to source the specific things, and they can do that. All right, so just kind of a breakdown of their fabricated product mix. The size range is still the same, but the products that they can go up to 36 differs. So again, when we're talking fabricated strainers, it's simplex only. There's no fabrication available for a wide strainer, but they can do up to 2 to 36 inches. They can in-house do all the end connections, flange, butt weld, 150 to 900. So that's where the limitations of off-the-shelf cast, $300 to 900. 20 mesh, 1 perf, that's the same. Cover designs. So this is where I talked about you can do kind of any cover to any design. They can modify a strainer, or they can build it from the ground up. They can build a 100% domestic simplex strainer. So they can source all domestic materials. So that's another thing. A lot of the castings are import. They can conform to Buy American, or they can do 100% domestic simplex strainers. So that has saved us quite a few times. And just a different quick opening design. Will be a picture of that in a slide or two. These are a little repetitive. So simplex design, it's a good, oh, perfect. So there's the davit. So that's kind of what that is, and that is on a hinge, and it just slides right over. And then we've got the quick acting design, which are the clamp cover styles. And so you can kind of see why it would be derated a little bit, because if you're running full bore, you might be able to seal it. But I pity the maintenance guys popping that first one. So that's why there's the biggest one. It's just the engineering physics of how that strainer is going to be unbolted. Some of that stuff is accommodated by having a knob lever, which will open all of them simultaneously. So like I said, when we say limitation, it's mostly out of the box limitation. We can accommodate and we can facilitate to get up to a true ANSI, but if it's needed, it's a lot more money, and it's fine. If it's not, we'll just have to make sure the asterisk sign 200-pound pressure rate. So that's kind of a nice example. That's their fab. They completely built this in-house. So they have their. And so when I was there one time, I don't know if that was it. I saw some 24 inches, and wow, so made the customer spec. So that's where any engineering deviations, any design, they can do it. Multi-basket design. So sometimes this can be done as a simplex off the shelf. They can just modify it. Now, why multi-basket design? It increases the open area. It increases the flow. So while water can freely flow through all of these chambers, it all depends on the engineering breakdown, the pressure drop. If calculated pressure drop is too high on a simplex design, just because of the amount of open area that the water can travel through, they kind of came up with a multi-basket design, which allows for higher flow of water and can decrease that pressure drop. So when we say pressure drop, they've got a very basic breakdown that you can kind of get out of jail free on their website, put in basic, what size, what straining element, and then the media, and do a quick one. It'll tell you 2 pounds or lower if you're good to go. If you see a spike in that, that's where we might want to get their engineering in. We could truly look at some viscosity, but that's usually a good method for alleviating pressure drop is a multi-basket design. And this is a good kind of what we've been talking about over and over. It's just different style of closing. And this is their fab facility, so they can do it. They can modify. Dead horse at this point, but they don't stop it. They know. So, and then get into the fab T design. So these are more engineering driven. Bolted cover, quick opening, flanged in. with a tub basket and then W basket. So that's where they'll give you a design on straining style, and usually that's all dictated by the engineering design. With fab tees, we're always kind of replacing someone else's, so we're always kind of, and they've done well with it. So that one I've always seen dictated. I've never organically specified a fab tee, so they kind of come to us or come to Titan. So, but they can do it, and then they go the design standards. So these are their fabricated duplex. So these are butterflies. So they got a quad ball on the lower end, but I think it's 8-inch and above. They move to a butterfly design, and then depending on the material, it's either going to be an iron body butterfly or a high performance butterfly if needed. This is a completely built, ground up, 100% domestic valve. So they will do that. And then, so this is like the enclosures that kind of where we have to rate to the lowest point. And some of these points and some of these levers just take it down. So that's where true ANSI versus true working pressure can differ. And then temp strainers. So that's the most common, the witch's hat or pilgrim's hat, flat style, spectacle blinds, spacer rings, bleed rings. We've got a nice catalog. We're sending on this. So they can do 150 to 1500 on all sizes. It's in-house made. Usual lead time on this is 4 to 5 business days. Expediting is available, but that's pending the available labor, and it's usually, their kind of quick thing is double the price for half the lead, and that's simply because they're truly keeping the team extra and to get something out next day. And it's worked wonders before if someone's got to have it the next day. So these are used for temporary installs, catching the startup, just in and out. So, like I said, we've got good literature on that. These are all done in-house. These are considered domestic because they fabricate these in-house. Well, it all depends. All fabrication is considered domestic just because it's done there. They fabricate all of their baskets and screens in-house, but the castings are Chinese. But Titan can conform to Buy American 51% on, I think, just about everything, simply because if we needed to make this Buy American compliant, there's domestic, we can do NACE certified domestic trim. The gaskets are made in-house, the basket's made in-house, the testing is done in-house, so the labor and parts get there, and they have a nice little certification letter. I don't know if anything is exempt from that we can't do that, just for the simple fact that they can fabricate all of the internals and test in-house. So the labor usually is what puts it over that 51% mark. And then like on the true 100% designs, they can do that as well. These would qualify as 100%, especially sourced. If it gets down to the nitty-gritty on a true 100%, they will have to do domestic sourcing of carbon and stainless steel, which they can do, but they do have carbon and stainless blinds that are import. So as with all kind of the Buy American, all that stuff, they can do it. You just got to know exactly which one we're doing. The 51% one is never an issue, just because of the amount of in-house capabilities they have. So spec blinds, bleeder rings, like I said, they can do it all. One down. So go ahead on. So the bleed rings 150, 300 all the way up to the max. Again, just by design. They'll have you sign off a little. They'll give you a drawing. You'll sign it. Thank you. So this is kind of an overview of their capabilities. They're up to speed with all the engineering works: CAD, BIM, 3D, 2D engineering, webinar, live testing, video, hydro testing with video. They're up to speed with all that. So this is just all the standard codes. They meet all the codes and the applicable thing. You can do in-house witness. They accommodate all of that. So any and all spec requirements in that world, they've done a very good job of never saying no because of a design or engineering kind of specification. And training. Their trainings are second to none. I don't know if anyone's been able to do it. It's in Lumberton, North Carolina. They hold 2 a year. They're very, very beneficial. I believe they just had one recently. The next one it's usually in September or early October. So we'll kind of everybody aware of those dates. It's very hands-on. You'll make a basket, you'll make a strainer. You'll completely assemble and disassemble a simplex strainer. You'll change out the springs it's extremely hands-on and very, very fun. It's like I said, it's a good group. You're going to meet all the owners and the presidents. They're the ones kind of running the show. It's a good time. They kind of shortened it, which is nice. It used to be 3.5 days. Kind of got it down to 2, which is good. As fun as it was kind of a label, but now they've made it a little more user-friendly. To sneak out on a Monday and be back to work on Wednesday. So we'll let you guys know whenever that comes. The next one is, and if anyone would like to go, it's well worth the time. Extremely hands-on. To see that fabrication facility in person, you realize why I won't shut up about it. So we'll keep you in mind on that. And then this kind of jumps back to reinforced strainers. So they can do fiberglass reinforced strainers. Again, I'm harping on a dead point here, but any service is not off limits for Titan. So they can do it. They can modify some of their standard designs to have fiberglass reinforcement to maintain those heavy oxide slurries and all that. And differential pressure gauge, like I said, everything is standard with it. It comes with a 1/4 inch. The reason being is that the most telltale way to say when you need to change your screen is, inlet, outlet, pressure differential, that you're clogged. Most people want to maintain under 5. They say if you're ever going over 20 pounds differential pressure, you're putting too much strain on everything. But, the leeway is up to the engineers. It's up to the line. It's up to the flow. They're not gonna go and say what you should do, but at a certain point, if you're running it, you're redlining it. So they just kind of have a good indicating way of when you should clean it and why you should clean it. And then, you'll get some good life out of a basket depending on the material. Most times you just scrape it. You probably want to change every 2 or 3 times, just get a fresh basket. Biggest thing to remember when maintaining and servicing is the gasket, though. They do all those in-house. They have hundreds of them on hand. But just know that anytime you're inspecting and you're popping, you're going to want to replace the basket, the gasket. So keep that in mind. That's where sometimes, I thought we got 3 uses out of it, not on the gasket. And NACE certification, so they can follow NACE. Not all of them come standard NACE, so just keep that in mind. They do need to change out some of the trim and usually upgrade to a full 316 stainless basket as opposed to a 304 stainless, which is used on the carbon model. So they can't conform to NACE. It's again, they're just kind of about the labor. What's the labor adder? I think for a large strainer to conform to NACE is a $50 flat charge. So they don't get greedy too bad with any modifications. It's a true kind of look at labor and then move on. So they don't really hang it up. And they've got a trifold, so they got pump protection products and suction diffusers. These are on the shelf. So we've had some decent success with those. So keep that in mind if you ever run into a tri-flow or suction diffuser. They've got them, I believe, stocked up to 12 inches on those. So this comes in quite a bit. I believe that's about it. So this is kind of the ending. Different styles. So slant style and flat style. So these are just options based on flow, pressure drop, media, etc. They can recommend when those do. Some come standard with a flat brim or a vertical brim. The only reason I bring that up and it's important is because when changing out a screen or a basket, it's important to know if they did have a slanted or flat top. So there's no price difference between that. It's just making sure we get the right thing. And then just another kind of interesting thing is it's not only a handle, but it is the actual sealing method for a basket. So how is the basket held in there? When the cover goes down, it's physically depressing that handle. So while this is a handle to yank it out, it's also the handle to keep it seating. So that's important. If that is broken, it's not just an inconvenience, it's actually going to affect the seating. Sometimes if you're just getting rocks out of a line, you'll never notice. Some people for like the HVAC refrigeration, like Trains and Johnson, those guys, they have a specific O-ring design. That's where if you run into a situation where you're missing out on that, you're not seating that O-ring properly. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If someone takes a picture, I need one of these, and you see a spewed up handles, we need, just, and they're just asking for a gasket or asking for, if they can scrape it or clean it, we gotta get a new one on that. So, that's just a little tip. But I believe that is the end of the slide. So
Nice mouth in the picture.
I know I get speedy at some points and belabor a little, so I want to leave it open to any and all questions, hands-on or otherwise. But thank you guys for your time very much, and please ask away if there's anything you might. So, you know they can do fast.
51%.
Yeah, 51%, darn. So yeah.
The thing though, is they do have a ton of standard stuff also.
Oh, absolutely, and that
If
there's
you have a
not
part number of a competing product, send it to us, we'll do our damage to cross it over.
Yeah, fab is 10%. I mean, it's just the interesting never say no factor of it. But their inventory is second to none. And has anyone utilized their online? I'll send links to they have an online inventory that is updated hourly. Like, they legitimately update that in hours. So I'll get some links to that. But as always with all things, we have access to their inventory as well. We have access to price files and all that kind of stuff. So we can usually get it pulled back same day with us, fabricating, pending, all that. So obviously feel free to utilize us whenever and however, but it is kind of a good glance, because what they'll do is they'll line it up. If someone just needs a 4-inch 300 right away, it'll list every style. They got carbon, they got stainless, they've got a flange, and they've got a thread. So that's the good thing about it, is you can pick a certain point and it'll tell you exactly what models are stocking what size. Very user friendly. They usually ship same the next day. They're kind of like Northwest Pipe and Marshall-Rodeno. They hate answering machines, so you will rarely, if ever, get an answering machine from Pipe and Flow Control. So it's a fantastic company. They've stood by everything they've ever said. So hopefully they get some opportunities and show them the ropes. So thank you all again. I appreciate your time very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.